Die 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 die, yada die 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 die, yada die die die, yada die 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 die, yada die 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 die, yada die 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 die, yada die die die, yada die yada die 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 dum. Yada die 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 die. Yai die die yai die die die. Yai die 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 die. Yai die. Yada die 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 dum. Yada die 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Yai die 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 die. Yai die 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 die. Ay ay die 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 dum. Ay ay die ay die die die. Yai die die yai die die yai die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Yada die 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 die. Ay ay die die die. Boker Tov, good morning. I hope that we are off to an okay start this morning. It's Wisdom Wednesday, so a little wisdom, a little sharing. Um, the first wisdom comes from this morning's trip to school. So we're on the way to school, and we always go the same way. Andrea takes one way. She doesn't drop off a lot because she's back at work. Um, but when she does, she goes the way that she goes, and I go the way that I go in order to avoid the congestion of town. So today, I'm driving. Yes, that is pretty amazing, Linda. Um, Rabbi Menachem and his infinite wisdom always. The Torah study blessing is something, and Rabbi David Paskin is wonderful as well. And so there's so many things that they put together, and it's pretty awesome. If that's who you're referring to, and if it's somebody else, please let me know so that I can at least give them credit to soak in the words of Torah. So anyway, I'm driving, and Ella said, "Let's try a different way, Ima." And I'm like, "Oh God, please! I just need to get you to school on time so I can get back to work in time." Yeah. Let's try it. So I said, "Okay, let's try it." Sure enough, it cut out. I mean, it's only a 5 minute drive, if that, to school, but it cut out a good 2 minutes because Ella said, No, let's go that way, left. And I made a left turn, and wouldn't you know, we came out 1 block away from the school. So the wisdom for today is sometimes, I guess, listen to the youth of the world. Sometimes not. Trust me, there's a lot of times you'd be scared to follow what the youth say. But this morning, that's the wisdom. But the wisdom from tradition, the wisdom from Torah, I'm struggling a lot with all that is going on in the world, and especially in Israel and around the world, um, as it pertains to Middle East and Arab countries, and then also the anti-Semitism in the world. And I'm trying to fix my thoughts on that. So I decided that the wisdom for today, we're going to go with Parsha. We're going to go with what are the words of tradition? What are they telling us this week? And so something that I want to tie in is we always think about, and the student said to me, "Oh, January is the worst. We only get 1 day off from school." And so I said, "Okay, that's fair. We're always looking after December break. We're looking forward, at least in our region, in public schools, they get off a week in February for President's Week. And so I get it. It's closer in proximity to, the start of school and the first break. And so now we have December to February, and then February to, March or April, wherever Pesach falls out, we get another week. And so I understand that it's a long month. You only get 1 day. And I said, that is true, but what if we were grateful just for the person who allows us that day off? There was a different way to spin it. Yes, it does stink. It's a long month and there's a lot of school and you just came off a vacation, but we get one Monday off, which means you have an extended weekend. So I want to tie in this week's Parsha to a little bit of, MLK light. And I think MLK's light. I think that he's worthy of more than just a day. So in this week's Torah portion, in this week's reading Parsha, we're introduced to Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher. And we're greeted by the greatest leader of all time traditionally. Now we can argue that out because there's, two Jews and three opinions. But when we think of Moses, most of us think of these heroic stories like crossing the sea, or maybe pleading with Pharaoh to let our people go, or maybe it's his death before entering the promised land after all the work that he's done. The poor guy doesn't even get to go with the people after all the work that he's done. And so those are like the cardinal, this was his legacy, this is his work. But what if we spoke about Moses before all of that? I think a lot of that gets just swept under the rug because we look for the most heroic. We look for what other people might know. But what if we looked at Moses from his origin, from the beginning of time? Who was Moses before his leadership position? Here's the 20-second recap of where we are in Torah. Second book of the Torah, Shemot, names. This is where we are. There's a lot about this book of Exodus. And so here's where we are. A new Pharaoh arises. He enslaves all the Jews. Israelites are slaves. He declares genocide by drowning all male babies. Moses is born and is saved by the daughter of Pharaoh. Moses grows up. He kills an Egyptian taskmaster. When Pharaoh finds out, Moses runs away to Midian, where he goes and starts a family. This is the recap. You like this? 20 seconds. God appears to Moses in the burning bush and charges Moses with freeing the Israelites. Moses and his brother Aaron visit Pharaoh, and that makes things worse. So now that we've sped through that, the quick version, let's talk about Moses and the kind of person that he was. Moses was differently abled, disabled, and I'm not referencing his speech impediment, although he had that. He was differently abled, like he was able to see things differently as a positive. He was able to see the suffering of others. If we spin back for a second to the words of wanting to declare genocide by the new Pharaoh, we think of words like genocide that kind of parallel and match up today, which is scary for our people. And so Moses saw the suffering of others. Despite growing up as a prince, privileged, wealthy, he never had a reason to identify with a slave, never mind an Israelite slave. Yet he was so aware that he decided that they were worthy of empathy. With everything to lose and nothing to gain, Moses risked all for the sake of others. Reminding me of those in the IDF, reminding me of those from all around the world and mostly from our area, and of course other areas. Not that, the New York area is the best in the world, but a lot of colleagues, a lot of youth, a lot of people have gone on missions or have enlisted or have come out of the reserves to fight on the front lines, to secure whatever they can in order to not lose everything. And they do it for the sake of others. The ability to see the suffering of others or to take action is part of Moses' many stories. Moses' son, he has a son and he names him Gershom. The name meaning stranger in a strange land. Seriously, Moses, you named your son stranger. Moses was a prince. His son, therefore a prince too, the opposite of a stranger. But for Moses, he was able to step outside the identity that he was labeled with to see the other side, to see those that are suffering. That to me sounds like a leader. The ability to see and act for the sake of others. And here's another Mosesism. At the scene of the burning bush, Moses stops and looks, noticing the bush isn't being consumed. It's one of those stories where you're like, hey, wait a second. We're in the desert, lots of things are burning, and there they go, gone, burnt away. It is in Moses' ability to notice situations long enough to see what isn't ordinary about the situation. It is Moses' empathetic character trait that makes him who he is. To look at someone or something and really see what's there. Seeing it as actuality, not as it might first appear, not with rose-colored glasses, not with what you want to see. His DNA from his biological mother, Yocheved, and his DNA from Bat Paro, the daughter of Pharaoh, as she scooped him up in the basket, from the basket, as it floated down the river. She is also an unsung hero who was able to see the suffering and acted for the sake of another. So Moses is truly who he was born, who he had become, and the legacy he left for our people. That's Moses. And so while I mentioned Martin Luther for 1 second, for one day that we remember him, I'd like to think of a month of doing good, a month of legacy, a month where we're thinking about Moses bringing our people from this moment out of slavery in the long story. I'm thinking about, for more than 1 second, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who saw the challenges in the world, disregard for civil rights, for religious freedom, and said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort, but where he stands in the times of challenge and controversy. That wisdom, that spiritual strength inspires so many of us until this moment, and we need to be reminded of it not just on his day, but to be reminded of it, maybe it's for this whole month of January, where we only get 1 day off, as the student said. He, like Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, shared wisdom beyond the moment of time in which he delivered it. In fact, Martin Luther King Jr. walked and marched shoulder to shoulder, praying with his feet alongside Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, the human rights activist, as they preached that unity is a must and diversity is key, and the importance of learning from one another and standing up for the rights of people is essential to make this world a better place. The name is mentioned so far. That link to action, to uplift, to remember for good is where we need to align ourselves. For they have done so much for our people. All of us are who we are because of where we came from, enhanced by the choices we've made and the actions that we take. So if we were to create a list, including all the names, Shemot, names, all Shem, the name, Hashem, the name, all of the names that helped shape us into who we are today. Our parents, our family members, the teachers, the TV shows, the books, the musicians, the religious school, the rabbis, the coaches, the camp counselors, the co-workers, the world, the media, the partners. It's a simple list. This list would be long. This would take us days. And we'd come back to the names and back again to add. For it wouldn't only be the most positive of people. We'd be going back to add people that, you know what, maybe they weren't so great, but they taught us how not to be. That list is our list of gratitude. It represents the facets of who we are as people. The Torah opens us to recall our own dependency on others. Then it spins it to remind us to be such influencers in the lives of those we touch. Whose list are you on? There are so many lists being assembled, all the space to add your name. And only you can do that. Whose list do you need to be added to? How have you impacted the world by one person? Our names are made up of all of the characteristics of all of our personalities, infused with all of the experiences that we have encountered, fueled by love, and we share it with this world. These are the names. What are yours? Dear friends, thank you for joining me this morning. Linda and Elisa, Bet and Rabbi Jay, Heather, Rabbi Ackerman. I missed you. I saw you the other day. You were pulling out of New Montefiore, and I was coming in, but we didn't connect. I miss you, and I hope, Holy Brother, that you are doing as well as you can do. Am Yisrael Chai. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you. Let us continue to remind ourselves, these are the names. What is yours? Whose list will you put yourself on? And who will you put on your list? Let us be amongst the leaders, even if it's in our core little group, or if it's in the big picture of the world. You matter. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.